Good evening, everybody. We have a very interesting evening tonight. We have some, I don't know, setbacks, so to speak. One of our guests that we were going to have on was a member of organized crime, and he backed out the last minute. I think he got whacked, to be honest. No, just kidding. He was told by his parole officer or whatever not to go on the show, even though we weren't going to use his name, we weren't going to use his face, but he backed out. So, whatever. As far as I'm concerned, he got whacked, okay? We have our guest, one of our guests, who is a expert in mob-related television, books, and things of that nature. He's a writer. He cannot make it because he's working on another show in LA. And coincidentally, my co-host, Pamela, is in LA working on some other thing. She might join us later. We have to see. So I'm all alone, but that's okay. I like to talk. I talk a lot. We have some new sponsors. Matter of fact, Anthony, let's talk about Patsy's Restaurant. Okay. Now, this is a pizzeria, but it's really a restaurant. It's in Whitestone, Queens on Utopia Parkway. They have the best, I've eaten there many times, the best pizza, but the best, if you like Fra Diavolo, if you like linguine with Fra Diavolo, it's seafood. Oh my God. I'm getting hungry just thinking of talking about it. They're very, very good. When you go there, you tell them that Vinny sent you. Maybe they'll give you extra breadsticks. I don't know. We'll see. Who's the other? We have another sponsor, Artuzo's Pastry. I grew up in the neighborhood with Artuzo's, okay? They are one of the best pastries in New York City, especially on Arthur Avenue, where they're from. 670 East 187th Street is the middle of Arthur Avenue, Little Italy in the Bronx. Their pastries are, now this week we had St. Joseph's, the Feast of St. Joseph. So they made the St. Joseph Spingy and the St. Joseph cake. Unbelievable. When Easter comes, I'm going to talk to you about what they make for Easter. They make some really awesome stuff. And you go there, you will not be disappointed. Okay. Now, tonight we're going to talk about the death of the Mafia. Now, when I say the death of the Mafia, it is not what it used to be. It's been glamorized on TV. The Godfather 1, Godfather 2, Godfather 3 was, you got Goodfellas, you got Casino, and I'm sure there's a few others that I left out, but those are the most popular of the movies. And Scarface, even though it was a Colombian mafia, but still mafia. You go to a lot of these Italian clubs, they got pictures of Marlon Brando, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino in there playing these roles. Okay. The American public is enamored with the mafia. That's why these movies do very well. However, they glamorize something that's really not glamorized because they kill people. They kill and they steal. But the way they do it, it's very interesting. Matter of fact, when I grew up on Arthur Avenue in the Bronx, in Little Italy, I know that a lot of the guys used to go out and meet girls. They used to say, "I'm with somebody. I'm with this and that." And a lot of girls got turned on by that. They like that. They like that danger being with a mafia guy and everything. But the problem with the mafia is that, first of all, half the mafia is in jail. The other half is in a witness protection program. Okay, you have a lot of the mafia families have been decimated. How they decimated? Well, the federal government has sharpened their skills immensely. Okay. Now, when I worked for the government, I had nothing to do with organized crime or investigate them or anything like that. I investigated other crimes. But what I noticed over the last few years, because I've been hired by some of the mafia families to help them in their defense. And it's always the same thing. We have an informant, we have a rat, and we want you to find out anything you can about the rat. It doesn't usually work because the rat's a rat. Why is the guy an informant? There's a lot of reasons. We're going to go over some specific ones tonight. But what happens is the feds make them an offer they can't refuse. Sounds like mafia, right? What they do is they throw the kitchen sink at you. They say, well, okay, you did this, that, and the other. Under the RICO statute, you got 20 years, and you got this and that. and you're looking at life because there's mitigating circumstances. There's other you have another crime that you were committed of. Now under RICO, they can bring in previous crimes that you were convicted of to show that there's a continuing. That's where the RICO comes in, racketeering, influence, corrupt organization, and that's been very, very effective. That's why some mafia guys will not take a plea, because then they could use that against them in the future. But what you have is electronic surveillance. The feds have come up with some incredible electronic devices. They can actually bug your phone, even if you shut off. As long as the battery's in there, they can listen to you. And many of the mafia guys that get arrested and convicted get convicted because they talked on the phone. They said something. And sometimes that little conversation they had with an individual, I'll give you an example. One of my clients owned a strip club. And he had a company, a Russian guy used to bring the girls in, and he would pay them like for shift. He would give them like $35 each girl, and the girls work for tips, and then they make money. So the guy calls him up one day and said, "Listen, I have a problem with my partner, and the partner is whatever it was." My guy said to him, "Well, why don't you just sit down and make an agreement with him?" Because he spoke to this gentleman, they took certain things out of context, and they charged him with racketeering and visa violation. Now, the funny thing is, he didn't even have a credit card. He said, "I don't even have a credit card." I said, "No, visa." They got some girls come in from Russia or Ukraine, wherever they came from, and they were illegal, and they were using them as dancers in the club. Okay? So, when you're a made guy or you're an associate of a mafia family, you have to be very careful, because you say the wrong thing. I'll give you another example. A client of mine was at a meeting with other gangsters. Okay, he was not part of the scam that went down. Okay, matter of fact, it was the window scam with Jacob Javits. All the 5 families, they split millions of dollars. They ripped off the Jacob Javits Center with the windows, put the windows in. Okay, my guy was at a meeting. He had nothing. He didn't get a penny out of this. He was not part of it, but he was at the meeting. And they got him on, and it was tape recorded. The whole meeting was tape recorded. And during the meeting, he said, they asked him, what do you want to eat for lunch? He said, give me a meatball hero. That got him convicted. He got, I think, 2 years in federal prison for that, because he conspired by just having his being there and having his voice on. And I've heard this many other times. Okay. So what happens is, a lot of these mafia guys, they like saying, wait a minute, I got to be really careful. I'll give you an example. You got a guy who's been around the life. They call it the life. They've been around the life for 15, 20 years. They're in their early 40s, mid 40s, and all of a sudden they get arrested for a racketeering case. Okay, and so many things go under the heading of racketeering. I'm not going to go into that. We can speak for 4 hours on that, but. They tell the guy, "Listen, we got you dead to rights," and they listen to the tape. We got you on tape. We have all the evidence we need. We got wire transfer, whatever it is. You're looking at 20 years in jail. But if you testify against your boss, or you testify against the other members of the group, we're going to cut you a deal. Maybe we'll give you 5 years or 4 years, and we'll put you in a minimum security, a witness protection program type of thing. And the guy thinks about it and says, wait a minute, I got a wife and 2 kids. I don't have a pension, because the mafia doesn't give you a pension. The business that he had that was on record for his salary was mediocre. He says, I got no future. My family's got no future. Let's make a deal. Like Monty Hall, let's make a deal. Okay, they make a deal, and he testified. Now, I'm not condoning it, but you got to remember that the guy's got no choice. He's got at least 20 years in jail. When he comes out, if he comes out, he'll be 60 something years old, and it's going to be all a broken down police. And so you could understand and why. Now, years ago, it was customary that if a man was in jail, he was an earner. They call it an earner. His capo or the members of the family would chip in money to the wife and say, "All right, here, here's $1,000 each week, or here's a 500, whatever it is, to keep them going." They don't do that anymore. They don't do that. You get caught, you're out on your own. So you just can't blame the guy for doing it. Now, I'm not condoning it. A rat is a rat, but you can't blame the guy. In a way, you can't blame the guy for doing it. Now, talking about rats, we're going to talk a lot about rats tonight. That's how the feds have gotten a lot of convictions. Think about it. You got somebody who's a member of a family, a crime family. He could be an associate or it could be a made guy. It doesn't make a difference. He could testify that he saw blah, blah, blah. He saw this, he saw that. And the veracity is that he was a member, that he committed crimes. So I understand the defense attorney is going to try to rip him apart by saying, "Well, you committed crimes and you're just saying this so you can get out of trouble." Yeah, that's why I'm testifying. I'm going to get out of trouble. It's like you're not going to destroy the guy because this guy's destroyed already. So what happens is he will testify and usually testifying truthfully. Case in point, Sammy the Bull Gravano. He testified that he killed 19 people over his career. 19. And he testified against John Gotti, who was the Godfather. Now, John Gotti was a public figure. He loved to wear those $2,000 suits. He would be seen at Regine's. He'd be seen all over the place. He liked the adulation. He liked the just walking into a play, everybody's, "Oh my God, it's John Gotti. Oh my God. And he loved it. He loved it. And we're also streaming on these platforms: Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, Anchor, Spotify, and Google Podcast. We are really we're really getting up there. So Sammy the Bull gets cornered by the feds, and they say, "Look, we got you on a few things, but guess what? We got a tape that John Gotti said something that sounded like they want to kill you." Okay? So he listens to it. He says, "Wait a minute. If I don't testify against him, I might be dead anyway. So I might as well testify." Because he's looking at 20 years in jail. Instead, he got 5 years in a minimum security, a camp. And the funny thing is, he went back to his old ways. He was dealing drug ecstasy from where he was in Arizona. Now, the problem we have here is that years ago it was understood that if you testified against the Mafia, you would get killed. Well, guess what? They're not killing anybody. Sammy the Bull is still alive. Matter of fact, somebody told me they saw him in Atlantic City walking around like it was nothing. So they're not killing anybody because they're afraid. They're afraid that if they go after somebody, the feds will be watching and they're going to get arrested. Okay. You had in Arthur Avenue, I remember this guy, Willie Marshall, testified against the Gambinos. I think it was something to do with Scores, a nightclub, strip club on 60th Street. Now it's Sapphire. But at the time, I don't know all the facts, but he testified. He was walking around the neighborhood like it was nothing. Like he wasn't worried about getting shot, killed. You got so many people that they take the low road. I don't say the high road. They take the low road. Okay, and one of our guests tonight was going to talk. That's all he was going to talk about, the rats, because apparently somebody ratted him out and he got convicted and whatever. But he can't testify. I mean, he can't not testify. He can't talk. He backed out. Okay, so, but the Mafia is not what it used to be. First of all, You have online sports betting now. That takes business away from them right away. You could play numbers. You go to the supermarket and you can play a number on a machine. You can play it in the candy store. You don't have people walking around taking numbers. I mean, you do, but very far and few in between. Prostitution is legal in many jurisdictions that they're saying, you know what, we're not going to prosecute prostitution. So, you know what? All right, you still got pimps out there. You still got, but the mob is not what it used to be. Okay. Extortion. Years ago, they used to make a lot of money extorting. For example, they would go into, for example, in Greenwich Village, there was a restaurant there called Figaro's. I don't know if it's still there. And there were 4 other restaurants in there. This is when, in the 70s and 80s, when this was booming, okay? Those people had to pay, I won't mention names, but they had to pay a certain family $10,000 a month to stay in business. But they did it because they were protected, protected. They were protected, and nobody else could go near them. But they made money. So they made money. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. Well, it is wrong. Technically, it's not wrong. But they don't do that anymore. People are afraid because now they'll testify. Years ago, they would be afraid that, oh no, I can't testify. I'll get at least a beating. If not a beating, I'll get killed. And I don't, now nobody cares. Now, one thing that I have to mention is we're talking about the Italian mafia. You have other mafia groups. Now, mafia used to be a reference to an Italian crime syndicate, but the word has been utilized in our vocabulary to any crime family. So you have the Russian mafia, you got the Albanian mafia, and you got the Colombian. Now, one of the things that I have mentioned over the years and taken classes in criminal justice, and I talk about this, is that each succeeding generation of immigrants become their own crime family. I'll give you an example. In the early part of the 20th century, the 1900s, New York crime was handled by the Irish. The Irish were the cops, the firemen. They stole. They had their own little, thing going on. But then the Italians came in at the turn of the century, and they brought in the mafia. They brought in the real mafia, the Black Hand, whatever you want to call it. In the 1930s, it became more organized. Lucky Luciano brought together all what they call the 5 families, and there you had the beginning. You had the Genovese, you had Profaci, which became Colombo. You had Joe Bonanno, Bananas, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, and then from then on to the 60s and 70s, they were almost invincible. Okay, but eventually Joe Valachi testified against the Genovese family and got some of them locked up. Then Jimmy the Weasel Fratelli, he testified. And it went on and on, but they were far in between. But the last 20 years, a lot of people testify. Okay, so the families have been decimated. They're decimated by prosecutions. They're decimated by electronic surveillance. They can't even have a meeting anywhere. There's always an electronic bug somewhere. But the electronic bugs is usually put in by the informant. What happens is we had worked on a case. I don't want to be too specific. I don't want to get in trouble. That's why. But I worked on a case in the Bronx. Okay, we had a rat. Now here's what happened. This guy was a weak individual. He got arrested on his own, not to do with mafia or anything. He got arrested doing drugs, selling drugs. When the district attorney in another county arrested him, he freaked out. Right away, he said, I'll talk. I know a bunch of guys that are doing something, and I infiltrated them, and I can bring them to you. So they gave him a carte blanche, basically, and he wore a wire for a few years, and he became an informant, and a lot of them took pleas because here's the funny thing: while he was doing his thing as an informant, the two FBI agents that were handling his case, handlers, lost 1 year of tapes that he had. So when these individuals were arrested, the prosecution was required to tell the defense attorney, "Well, we have a problem. We have missing tapes and this, that, and the other," and it kind of ruined the case. So instead of going after them for 20 years, some guys got 5 years, some got 8 years, some got 3 years, some got a year. So this guy didn't have to testify, but he did testify against another mafia family and another state that was involved. And I was hired to investigate him. Well, guess what? I found him. They didn't put him in a witness protection program, so I found him. It was very relatively easy to find him. He had things in his own name. His wife and he shared a credit card account, even though he was not with his wife anymore. I think they were divorced, but he still had the account. We had her run the charges, and we found that he was he bought something in a pharmacy in Las Vegas, so we knew where it was. But I was told not to see him, not to talk to him, not to do anything with him, just to have him. But he didn't have to testify. But he's got to live with himself. Okay. Now the funny thing is, he was on a podcast. I haven't seen it, but I heard he was on a podcast with I think Sammy the Bull Gravano or one of the other informants, and he was talking about how he was an informant. And I don't think that he had the reasoning, like I mentioned before with Sammy the Bull and some other people. He was just a weak individual, got arrested for committing a crime, and he said, I have a get out of jail card. And then he did that. Okay. He put a lot of people in jail, ruined a lot of lives, and that's what they do. That's what they do. Now, I was at a wedding, and one of the members of the wedding, one of the people in the wedding, was a client of mine, and he was a member of one of the families, and we had discussed Joe Massimo. Now, Joe Massimo was a real godfather of the Bonanno family. He wasn't acting; he was the real godfather. Okay, and he made a deal with the feds. They got him down. They got him. Okay. He said, "Listen, you're going to go to jail for a long time. We're going to take all your assets." He goes, "Wait a minute. I'll testify on one condition, that you let my family keep whatever they have, property, whatever, so that at least they're covered." And they said, "Okay." And the feds, just like the mafia, they make deals too, you know. So they made a deal with him. Now, here's the significance of this. When something goes on in any of the families, they usually have to confirm. Now, they don't have the commission. You know, when I mentioned Lucky Luciano, he formed a commission, the 5 families. So I'm not sure anybody listening to the show can comment on it. We have probably an informal commission right now. Okay, I mean we have, like I own it, you know, I'm part of it. So what happens is that it has to go through one of the godfathers. For example, if someone wants to be made to be a member of the family, what they do is they call opening the books, and somebody has to say okay. All right. Someone will come over to them, and a capo would come over to the godfather and say, "Listen, I know this guy, I know his family. He's an earner. He's been, you know, he's done all kinds of stuff for me, and I would like him to be a made guy." Okay, made guy. So he's a made guy. So by Massimo being an informant, I'm sure they got a lot of pleas because they don't want him to testify. Because if he testifies, do you think that the breakdown of the Mafia Code mirrors the socialist communist dictums of ratting out your parents, friends for the benefit of perceived greater good, or just pure self-serving? Yes. My answer is yes. That's a long comment. Thank you, Joseph. I'll give you an example. A few years ago, somebody I know was at a dinner or at a meeting, and John Gotti This is before he got convicted. John Gotti was at this meeting, and he mentioned to Wild Bill Catola, who was the very good, if you want to use the word good, he was one of the best hitmen for the Colombo family. And he said, my son just became made. He's a made guy. And Bill Catola said to him, my condolences. He didn't like that. Now, a lot of these mafia guys, they made a lot of money. They was very successful in their trade, if I want to use the word trade. Make sure that their kids do not get into that life. They become doctors. They become accountants, lawyers to protect the family. But they don't want them in there. And they very rarely do you find that the son of a made guy becomes made himself, because they don't want that. I mean, you do have, like, John Gotti wanted his son to be, and the funny thing about that is this, his son is not pure Italian. He's, I think the mother's Jewish or whatever, but not Italian. So they had to get like a special permission, which they did. Again, the mafia has been watered down also. Okay, so it's really tough. You have electronic, you have all this electronic stuff going around, and they're catching gangsters left and right. They capture them. One story I heard was two gangsters were talking, two mafia guys were talking, and he took his cell phone and put it 10 feet away. But he didn't shut it. He shut it off, but they were still on because the battery was in there, and the feds got incriminating evidence on that tape and went to jail. So you got a lot of problems there. Okay, do we have Pamela yet? Do we have Pamela coming on? Anthony? I got everybody abandoning me tonight. I don't know. I feel lonely. Anthony, hello? No. Okay, he's texting me no. Okay. All right, then I'm do it all alone. Okay. One of the I got to tell you, the mafia for years have been involved in labor racketeering. Very simple. They infiltrate a union. They get a hold of the dues, which some unions very considerable, and these dues are put into an investment account for the members. And what they do is they play with it. They take money out. They don't put money back in. Whatever. And this goes over a period of time. But what they've also done is they infiltrate a union, and this is one of the scams they have. They open the books of the union. I'll give you a specific. I know somebody was offered a book to join the carpenters union. This guy couldn't hit a nail, didn't know how to screw a screw. He couldn't even use the pliers. He had but they were going to put him in. He was going to make, let's say $1,200 a week. At that time, it was $1,200 a week. But he had to give $300 back to the wise guy that got him in. Okay. And I remember I was at an event one night, and the wife was screaming at him, "Don't do it! Don't do it! You gotta work." And then, meanwhile, the guy had no job. This was giving him a job. So, it's not right, but you could understand the reasoning behind this. But what they do is they do that with enough union members. They make a lot of money. They make a lot of money. We had a guy, not a mafia guy, but he acted like a mafia guy. He was a head of a union. What union was it? I don't want to know if I should mention the union. He was involved with the electrical union. Okay, local 3, and he got really jammed up. McLaughlin was his name. He was a councilman. I don't know. He was up there. They were talking about him being a mayor, going for mayor. He was really popular, a very connected guy. But it went to his head. He did certain things that was stupid, and he got jammed up, and he went. I think he went to jail. He lost everything. Okay, but what he would do is he would get people in the union, and they got to pay him, and that's so now that waters down the union, because now you have people in the union that don't really know what they're doing, but they have somebody that covers for them, and it's just it's not right. Anthony, let's see, Anthony, let's do it's for car insurance. We're gonna take a little commercial break now. We're going to talk about three more of us. Well, we got a lot of sponsors lately, which is really, really good. Anthony says we should not have any more sponsors because it's taking too much time from the show. So Anthony, let's see what you. Okay, Mark Turner Insurance. This guy is a genius with Medicare, Medicaid. He knows all the tricks. Tricks. He knows all the ins and outs. You're dealing with a bureaucracy, and he knows how to deal with them. And he's very good. He's a great personality. And matter of fact, he helped me with my thing. I had a big problem, and he straightened it. It took him a lot of time, but he straightened it out. And we have Cash for Cars. Now, this guy is in Staten Island. His name is Mike Goga. He buys cars. He sells cars. Matter of fact, I have a car from him. He's very fair with his prices. And nowadays, I understand it's very hard even to buy used cars because we have a shortage of everything. We're not going to talk about the political aspect of it, but we do have a shortage of cars. And new cars are like, with inflation, are like 15 to 20% more from the sticker price. So a lot of people want to buy used cars. So this guy has used cars, and he buys them too. If you want to sell your car, you can sell them 917-238-1640. He's in Staten Island, but he goes all over the state, wherever he has to go to pick up cars. And then last but not least, my books. Okay. You can purchase my books on Amazon, or if you contact me through my website, parcomedia.com, I can give you a signed copy for the same price that you're going to pay at Amazon, but you got a signed copy. My daughter has my company, Parkwood Associates, is doing very well. She does a lot of background checks. Women contact her all the time because they have boyfriends. They don't trust them. They meet guys online. Unbelievable what's going on. Now, I trained her. I taught her everything she knows. But she's pretty good. She's sharp. She knows, she's got her own way of doing things, and she's pretty good. Sometimes she could teach me something sometimes. Okay. Where's Pamela, Anthony? Where's Pam? Oh, just all right. Okay. One of the things. I've been mentioning about labor racketeering. Recently, the whole hierarchy of one of the families was arrested. They went after a union. They to the president of the union. They threatened him. Now, here's where they got in real trouble. Shaking down a union is bad. But when you threaten someone with physical harm, you're in a different category now. 5 of the top guys in the family, or 6 guys, we're talking about a boss, underboss, a whole bunch of capos, they all got arrested and no bail because they threatened. And that destroyed that one family. Now, who wants to take their place? I mean, think about it. If you are a member of organized crime, you know that when you move up the ranks, you have a target on your back. You have the feds know who you are. How? Rats. People talk. Now you have people that they don't have to be testifying against you in court, but they could whisper things to the feds. They could say, "Well, listen, Joey Gabaluki just became a capo, and he's running the rackets at the South Street Seaport. And the stevedores have to give him a kickback. Okay, good. Now they know where to target somebody. They will go and set up surveillance. They'll set up electronic surveillance to catch that particular guy because now they know. So this guy does not have to testify, and that makes it even more difficult to find the rat. And it's now many years ago there was a war with the Colombo family. Okay. Now I got to be careful with names again. So at the time, I always had my own. The company was always my company, but at one point, I brought in a partner for a year or two. His name is Nick Vasile. This guy was phenomenal. What a great guy. He died of Hodgkinson's cancer or something like that. But he was a wonderful guy, and he grew up with all these people. He grew up in Red Hook. He grew up in Brooklyn. He knew these people personally. He grew up with them. And the funny thing was, or sad thing was, not funny, sad thing was, that he was very good friends with Greg Scarpa. Now, Greg Scarpa was considered the Grim Reaper. He was the guy that killed people. He was. Now, I don't know if you read in the story about the Mississippi burning. If you saw the movie, it's not totally accurate. What happened was the feds had Greg Scarpa as an informant in the Colombo family. But what they did with him, which kind of it bothers me to even say this, but they let him do his thing. Okay. There was one situation where he had a meeting with one of the guys. He said, "Let's have a meeting. Let's stop this war." And before the meeting, he told his handlers, "Drop the surveillance on this particular guy." Okay. I don't remember his name exactly, but he had a nickname, Black, something like that. So they met on what they did was the two cars would go, the two drivers' side would come in and they would be able to talk. And the guy came up to talk to him, to make peace, and he shot him dead. Now, there was no surveillance, so nobody got him. But we know. Now, when Greg Scarpa got shot, Greg Scarpa, we had a war, so they tried to kill him, and he got shot in the eye, and he survived. But he got a bad transfusion, and he died of AIDS. Eventually, he got sick of AIDS. In those days, in the late 80s, early 90s, they didn't have the cocktails that they have nowadays, so he was dying. My partner, Nick, used to visit him in Rikers Island Hospital quite often, maybe 2-3 times a week. And he used to come back and was like depressed. I said, "What's the matter?" He says, Greg told me all kinds. He says he drifts in and out of lucidity. He's a little, from the disease, it affected his brain. But he told me a lot of things. I said, "What did he tell you?" One of the things he told me was that this war between the factions in the Persico family, the Colombo family, but Persico went to jail for life. There was some. He appointed his cousin as the acting head, and the other side. I don't know. It was I don't want to get into it, but there was a war. Okay. He claimed that John Gotti, who was alive at the time, instigated this and said, "I'll back your faction up." My opinion was that John Gotti wanted them to kill each other, and I think he would have taken over that family too. He would have been the strongest. He would have been the biggest Mafia family in New York City. It's an opinion. I have no facts to support it, but that's my opinion. Okay. And if anybody has a comment, please. So what happened was Greg Scarpa would tell him all kinds of stuff. Okay. Now Greg Scarpa was the guy that the feds had in the Colombo family. Who knows how many people got killed or didn't get or got arrested or got convicted because of him. I don't know the figures, but I do know he did one thing that the feds wanted him to do. He drove down to Mississippi. He went to a gas station. He came down with a big ass Cadillac. He pulled into a gas station that he knew one of the guys there was a member of the Ku Klux Klan, one of the redneck. And what he did was he told the guy, fill up my tank, whatever. The guy, and he says, I want to show you something. He opens the trunk, knocks the guy into the trunk, takes him into the woods. He puts a gun in his mouth. He says, listen, I want to know who killed those civil rights workers. You don't tell me, I'm gonna kill you right now. And this guy knew that Greg Scarpa was not kidding around. And he told him. Then they told the feds arrested him, and then the movie depicts what happened afterward. They don't tell you what Greg Scarpa did, but he did. Now, as a reward for his meritorious conduct, they let him run free. He had like a get out of jail card. Who knows how many people he killed, and the feds let him get away with it. It's a lot to say, but it's possible. The other thing that he did was he told the feds other things that were going on, and they were able to lay in wait and arrest people over the years without him testifying. He didn't have to testify. That's the other thing. You got rats that don't have to testify, so you really don't know it's a rat. All right, and Scarpa was an interesting guy. I mean, he was a tough guy. And his crew, he had a guy named Carmine Sessa, and he was a bad guy, tough, crazy guy. He turned state's evidence too, because again, you got a guy in his 40s or 50s. He's looking at 20 years in jail. In jail, you don't live long in jail because you don't have the. Come on, nobody lives long in jail. So he says, I want to die in jail, so maybe I should become a state's evidence. That's what he did. Now, on that trial, I'm not going to mention too many names. His name I could mention. On the trial, there was two guys in his crew that were arrested. And one of them, there's two brothers, and one of them testified against the crew, but he told the feds, I will not testify against my brother. They allowed it. I mean, they do have, I guess, use the word discretionary powers. They have enough. They have enough to say, well, we'll overlook a few things, okay? And they overlook things, and it sucks. What can I tell you? So we're going to have one more advertiser. Yeah, you have that ad. I sent you that ad, Anthony. I have that. You have that ad. Okay. Bugatti's is a new sponsor. They are a ravioli company on 187th Street and off Arthur Avenue in the Little Italy in the Bronx. They have, without a doubt, the best raviolis, fresh or frozen. Stuff with ricotta or mushrooms. They also have all the Italian special, not all, but a lot of Italian specialties in their store. The small store, they have a factory in the store, in the back of the store, and many of the restaurants in Arthur Avenue use their raviolis if they're selling ravioli. Like for example, another restaurant, Antonio's, will say on the menu, we use Bugatti's raviolis. So some of the places will say that to promote the ravioli, and they're good. They're the best. I don't think there's. I don't think somewhat disappointing that the breakdown of Omerta is making the emasculating of the Italian tough guys seem Hollywood sad in a way for guys like us. Well, Joe, guys like us. I mean, I think you meant that in the masculine sense, but not that we're part of this thing. Oh, Bruno, how are you tonight, Bruno? Good evening, Mr. Parker. Oh, very good. Oh, call me Mr. Vinny. But we have, the Omerta doesn't work. That's the whole thing. Joe, the best ravioli. That's right. Joe comes from the neighborhood. He's had these raviolis. They're unbelievable. Matter of fact, I one of the things I do, I haven't finished it yet, is we do a cooking show on YouTube based on one of my books called Recipes from the Detective's Kitchen. And one of the things we're going to do is going to go to Borgatti's and watch how they make the raviolis and put that on the show. And the same thing with the Casa Mozzarella. They make mozzarella right on the spot. You know, I don't know if you guys remember in The Sopranos, the guy Furio, he used to make the mozzarella. Okay, he was the mozzarella guy, the cheese guy. He was also a hitman for the Sopranos. But this guy Orazio, he's the Casa Mozzarella. You go there Christmas Eve or any holidays, there's a line around the corner. People come from all over to get the mozzarella. They're phenomenal. And there are other mozzarella places in Arthur Avenue, but this is the number one. Just like Borgatti's is the number one ravioli. I think they're the only one in the neighborhood. I don't think anybody wants to compete with them. They've been around for a long time, and their stuff is superb. Okay, so now I got all the sponsors out of the way. We got all the sponsors out of the way. Now, one of the things that amazing is that I've been watching on Pamela's Facebook page, but it was the only person on the page. Yeah, my page has been in jail. My page is in jail for a month. That's why I'm on Pamela's page. I hope a lot of people found out about it. Well, maybe they don't. Well, okay. So one of the rackets that the mob had, and it's very interesting, because in my storied career as an investigator, I had some interaction with this. I did the security in a gentleman's club a few years ago, and we did not have any mafia guys. No criminal guys came and shake us down. Okay, why? Well, my partner was a knockaround guy from the neighborhood. He knew the people, and they know that we're not gonna make this guy roll over. He's gonna fight us, so they left us alone. But what they did was the club before we built this club, we built it. I mean, I was involved with the security, getting construction. I got involved in the inception of this place. The place before that was a gentleman's club, but it wasn't completed. The guy that was running it was approached by wise guys for protection. And he'd say, I'm not going to pay protection. I'm not making a lot of it, whatever the reason. And they left him alone. Russians came in. The Russians, they don't fool around. They're tough people. They came over and they said, listen, we want a piece of this place. He got so nervous that he left. He left the place. And it's funny that one of the guys that I was friendly with, who was not a made guy, but he liked to hang around with the mafia guy. He said, can you believe this guy opens a club in New York City and doesn't have protection? Like as if you didn't have fire insurance for your building. Yeah, I mean, that's the way it was understood in the 90s. But things have changed a lot. Nobody's afraid of the mafia anymore. Not a thing. Guys, now I know for a fact a number of mob guys that have retired. They put them on the shelf. Now, sometimes a guy is very old. The guy's in his 80s. He says, listen, I can't do this anymore. And they let it go. But younger guys have said, you know what? I'm tired of this. And according to the Amuerta and according to the rules of the mafia, is that you cannot quit. You can't quit the mafia. That's when they do the ceremony where they prick your finger with the blood. They take a picture of a saint and they burn it in your hand. That kind of stuff. Well, in there you're supposed to say that you're a mafia guy until death. That's changed. It's changed. I lived in Howard Beach for a while. Matter of fact, I lived a block from John Gotti. I never met him. I didn't want to meet him. I had nothing to do with him. But the guys in his crew had hired me to get them out of trouble. Okay. Again, find out where the rat is. Find out what you can find out. It's the same story all the time. They got the feds don't bring anybody to court unless they have all the evidence. Matter of fact, the prosecution rate for federal prosecutors is about 95%. Yeah, maybe 5% win, but it's a foregone conclusion that you're going to get convicted. So might as well make a deal. And that's why the feds are very, very successful. Very successful. Now, there are situations where a mob guy could defend himself and win, but they don't want to take the chance. Even if they have a decent chance of getting acquitted, they say, I don't want to take the chance. If I take a plea, I get 8 years. If I get convicted, I get 20 years. And you do the math and say, you know what? Especially if you're a bookie, you know the odds. You say, well, maybe the odds don't favor me in this case, so I'm going to take the deal. And that's what they do. And that very rarely do you see anybody. I'll give you an example. Now, we're not talking about mob. We're talking about a corporate criminal, which is almost the same thing. This Tyrannos, this girl Holmes, she just got convicted of fraud. They had this scam going on where you took a blood sample and it's going to cure. I don't know, some sort of home machine. I don't know, some crazy thing. Well, they got millions and millions of dollars, and it was a scam. And she got convicted. Now her partner in crime I think he's on trial now. I'm not sure if he got convicted also. But they probably offered her a deal. She didn't want to take it. Now, talking about deals, you got Ghislaine Maxwell. This case is never going to go away, and I'll tell you why. They had their own little mafia going on. Now, again, the mafia is being loosely used as a crime syndicate. She was Jeffrey Epstein's Umar. I like to use that word. She was his number one woman enabler. She was bringing girls in, whatever. Okay. Now, I don't know if they offered her a deal. We don't know that, but we know that they got a conviction, and she's looking at almost life in prison for what she did, and she deserves it. But some numbskull on the jury forgot to tell him that he had a sexual encounter when he was younger, and that's a reason for a possible appeal or a reversal of the conviction, which means she has to go back to court. But she's still in jail. She's in solitary confinement. She's complaining. Her family complains about it. They won't give her bail because she's got millions of dollars hidden away. She's a flight risk, okay? But everybody, I just saw something on Facebook today or on email where someone says, Ghislaine, give up the names. She has names of so many people. Remember, the Lolita Express, they had Clinton was there, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton were there, and we know that he's a sexual predator. We know that. Everybody knows that. That's a foregone conclusion. And we know that Hillary, I don't know, can she sue me if I say she's, I'm not going to say anything about her. She's a public figure. Everybody knows what her deal is. Her and her, Ahmaded Hubin, her assistant, they had a thing going on. And, she let Bill Clinton bang away with chicks because, hey, she liked chicks herself, But I also understand that they like young women, young kids. So they were on the island. The Chief Justice, I understand, Roberts, was on the island. Now, what was he there for? They were there for these young women, okay? And a few other celebrities. You got the Prince Andrew. There's so many other people that she could give names of. Now, if I was her attorney, I would make a deal and say, listen, why don't we give up these names and put me in minimum security, witness protection, and keep me out of jail. But you know what? She's going to wind up dead anyway. Even on witness protection, there's always a way to get to. As an investigator, I have found people in the witness protection program. Once by accident, I was working at something, And what happened was my client had a cousin that was in the witness protection program. He wanted us to speak to him. I forgot how I did it, but I got a hold of him on a phone, and I put them together, and I was a hero. And nobody got killed, nobody got hurt, because they were family. Then we had another case, one of the rats he wasn't in a witness protection program, but they didn't change his name. He got an apartment in Las Vegas. We found the apartment. We found it with two ways. I think I mentioned it before. He and his wife had a joint credit card. I ran the credit card legally because she was a joint. And we found out that he used a pharmacy in Henderson, Nevada, which is Las Vegas, next to Las Vegas. And then one of the databases that we have that's phenomenal, it gives us so much information that he got electricity, public utility for his apartment that he got, and that came up on his report. It was a new service that we had. I didn't even know about it until I looked at the report. Oh my God, we know where he is. So, and then we had another case years ago in Florida, and we were following somebody, and the guy blurted out, "Why are you following me? I'm on a witness." But I don't know if that's true or not, but he was really nervous. He freaked out, and my investigator freaked out and took off. So we have a saying at the end of the show is, what makes you happy? What are you thankful for? And what's one thing you're thankful for? Okay. And I'm thankful for doing the show, having good guests that show up, like tonight. One of my guests from tonight is going to be on next week, Nick Christopher. Guy's a real expert on he's got movies that he's involved in, scripts. Again, the Mafia is a glorious. Now, I also am friendly with a lot of the people in movies. I've done a few acting a little too. You got William DeMayo's got a couple mob movies. Paul Borghese. You have a whole group of mob guys from the Goodfellas and stuff like that, and they keep banging out these Mafia movies, and some of them go to DVD, some of them go to Netflix, but they're doing pretty good. But it's always saleable. People love it. Now, the funny thing is, I eventually, every once in a while, I get invited to a Terra Senya, which is a beautiful restaurant in Greenwich Village on Dugal Street. It's an Italian social club, but high end. It's a 5-story building, townhouse. You have to wear a suit and tie to walk in there. You just can't walk in. Everybody in there gets vetted. If you're a member of organized crime, you're not getting in. All the people there are high professionals, lawyers, doctors, whatever. All the people in there are higher. And now I forgot what I was going to say. But you know, what they don't want is, they don't want the stigma of the Mafia with Italians. Some Italians get really pissed off about, oh, you're Italian, you're a Mafia. It's not true. As time goes on, Italians have been more educated. They don't want to get involved. They don't want to get involved in crime. They want to be professionals. And matter of fact, I belong to the Federation of Italian American Organization. They have a dinner in another 2 weeks, and the same thing. We have 600-700 people show up. Everybody there is in real estate, in insurance, doctors, lawyers, all kinds of people, law enforcement, and there's no gangsters there. There's no gangsters. They don't want that. They're on a different level, and they look down. Not look down. They just frown upon the stigma of Mafia being Italian. And I think for another maybe 2 more generations, this might really go away. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. It was an interesting show, even though I was all alone. But I had a lot to say, and I want to thank everybody for watching the show. As we say on Arthur Avenue, Little Italy, sempre noi, always with us.